Coach, it's great to be with you. First and foremost, obviously, congratulations on the season opening win against New Mexico. I know that you have fully turned the page to week 2, but to look back really quickly, when you review that film and you watched it, what was something that stood out to you that maybe you didn't see in real time during the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that you saw was constant communication between our players, how they, attacked the process all week is how it looked on the film. Both sides of the ball and in special teams felt like they played extremely hard. They played extremely physical. We really talked about trust, just trusting the process and trusting what they, how they train and what they've done to this point. And really the biggest 3 goals on offense was no turnovers. Defense, special team was tackling well, and then consistent energy. And I thought in all 3 phases they did that.
I think about Bryce Underwood and, his first career start. There was so much excitement to see him actually play a game. I know you've seen him make all of those plays in practice, maybe other than the block, but what was the moment that really stood out to you when you saw him be able to show up and just play like how he knows how to play?
Yeah, I mean, probably a couple. The first moment where I really thought about him and just understood like how bought in he is was the block he had in the low red zone. And he's bought into the culture, and you think a guy that was ranked the #1 player in the country and been so physical and physically imposing, and a guy that has so much going for him, and people talk about, the last thing he'd want to do is go block somebody. He'd keep his body out the way. But the guy is just he's a team player. He wants to be about the team, and he's going to do anything for the team to be successful. So I think that was the first one. And then probably the second one was that 3rd and 14 throw that he made in 2 minutes. Yeah, I thought, just a great job by Coach Lindsey on the call and just the trust in him to make the play. But it was an incredible throw. It was a tight window. And for him and Channing Goodwin to be on the same page and make that play, it was impressive for that 2-minute drive and then go down and score eventually. So showed great poise, showed an ability to push the ball down the field, obviously, but really manage the offense and be a leader on the offense.
Yeah, that 2-minute drill was impressive. He did not look like a freshman out there. I do have to ask though, when we saw it, but when he threw that block that sprung Justice Haynes, what did you say to him when he came to the sideline?
Okay, you got to stop that. I don't need you to do that anymore. But I think the players really loved seeing it. I heard a lot of noise from the defense and how happy they were, and you heard ooh from the crowd. And it wasn't even an ooh of any blocks in the offensive line. It was the block of the quarterback. So the kid he's all in, and he's gonna do whatever it takes to win.
I love it. All right. So one game into, you mentioned Chimp Lindsey, your new offensive coordinator. One game into him, calling plays. What stood out most, or what did you like the most about the way the offense was operating?
I thought he just such great rhythm. He understands how to attack defenses, what to do, and how to get his quarterback in rhythm, how to get his team in rhythm. And he calls it with such great flow and understands how to do it. He's done it for a long time. And it's just such a fair mix of understanding a shotgun, play action, run the ball, spread, tempo, like all those things, exactly what we want to be. You saw a good mix of that, and it was awesome to be a part of.
I want to ask about your defense real quick before we move on to this upcoming Saturday. At Media Day, I remember the last question we asked you was, who's the guy that no one's talking about enough? And you didn't hesitate. You immediately said Cole Sullivan, your linebacker with just a freaky athlete. I smiled when I saw him get that late interception on Saturday. What was your reaction? That did not look like a linebacker going up and getting that ball.
He's a freak athlete, and he's a guy that we've seen this over and over again. You see how he works, what he does, his thought process and how he prepares. I literally just saw him a little bit ago, and he's just always all smiles. He attacks everything, but he's like 6'5". He's 230-something plus pounds, maybe 240. I don't know what he runs, but he runs fast. And he's playing inside linebacker, but then we got him on the edge doing things. And I think he's over 30-something inch vertical, maybe 35 or something like that. But the kid's an absolute freak show, and he just keeps getting better and better. And he's young. He's really young.
Well, linebacker depth obviously will be key this weekend. Jayshawn Barham will miss the first half of the game against Oklahoma for the targeting call. In the second half of the New Mexico game, you've come out and you've said your piece on just the NCAA denying the appeal. What is it that you want them to look at? Because I think there's 2 parts of this. There's the actual call, and then there's the consequence of missing the first half of the next game.
Yeah, I think you look at, and if you go back to even when we played in 23, JJ was hit helmet to helmet, and the guy launched and hit him. That was overturned later on. The NCAA actually pulled that back, and you compare the hits, they were completely different. Jay Sean goes in there, and it's really not about the head. It's what he was doing when he was hitting, and when he was hitting the defender, he tried to turn his head and get away from the guy. So just want consistency. That's all we want is if you're going to make that call, then all across college football, that call should be that way. But then we got to figure out how do we want our guys to tackle? How do you want them to tackle when they're getting off a block? Because, even as an offensive coach, I've seen guys get off of blocks, and what do you tell the defensive guy to do? Because if he lowers his head at that point, it's probably going to be a worse hit. And, just got to be consistent. But we know as an organization now that it's over, and we got to keep rolling. We got to keep playing and have a plan for this week, and we will.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this week. You obviously returned to Norman, Oklahoma, where you played. There has been plenty of people like me asking questions about this, and you've been very clear that this game is not about you. It's about your players.
Yeah.
I am curious, though. You have a unique insight into what that environment and what that program is all about. Have you talked to your guys, or will you talk to your guys about your experience there?
Yeah. I think the thing I'll just tell them about is that, it's a great town. It's a great place. Obviously we have some guys that are young that haven't played in loud stadiums yet, which is okay. They'll be excited about it. And, the number one thing I am, trying to do is just make sure that we're ready to play. And at the end of the day, the crowd's not playing in the game. It's the 11 players on the opposite side, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. So we're just going to concentrate on that piece and not let anything else distract us.
Is there anything you can do to get, especially Bryce Underwood, ready for what that noise actually will be like? Is there enough crowd noise you could even pump in during practice to emulate it?
Yeah, we do a pretty good job of pumping in crowd noise, and we've got different tools that we use to make sure that it makes it pretty loud for the players and we even worked that in training camp a little bit, understanding what we were prepping for, having this in the back of our minds that we needed to work different cadences and different things to make sure we were ready for this game. So it won't be the first time that they've had to deal with it. And the first time we did it, I made it pretty hard for them to hear, sometimes harder than it might actually be in the game. But I want the chaos to be crazy in practice so that they feel it. And then they get to the game, they're in a calming place. But it's going to be loud. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be rocking. It's a live crowd. They're great people, great fans. So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I think also major challenge, obviously, the quarterback that you all are facing, John Matieri, was phenomenal at Washington State. He threw for almost 400 yards in week one. He's just a winner and does a lot of different things to keep defenses uncomfortable. So what's the key to getting him off rhythm and keeping him uncomfortable?
Yeah, I admire him. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Obviously, the experience is huge for him playing last year at Washington State and having his coordinator, Coach Arbuckle, come. And you've seen the production that he's had at Washington State. You see the production that he's had at Oklahoma already. So it's a guy that you've got to be ready for at all phases. You got to be ready for him to sit there in the pocket and throw the football. You got to be ready for him in the RPO game. You got to be ready for him to get on the perimeter and throw it. You got to be ready for him to run it. So it's going to be a big challenge for our defense because of all the multiple things that he can do. And then he's got skill players that can play. You've got Deion Burks out there who's going to take a lot of pride in this game because he's from Michigan. And, guys we've recruited, whether it be Logan Howell at tackle or Jared Kanak at tight end, we know we've recruited those guys and they've got a lot of skill guys all over. So it's going to be a well-coached team that's going to come out with a lot of fire and, a lot of motivated to win a big game, but, so are we.
And I know you're laser focused on going out and winning this game, but big picture, you look at the fact that Michigan and Oklahoma have only played once, and that was in the 1976 Orange Bowl. What is this game, two blue buds, what does it mean for the sport and the moment in time that we're in, that you guys are going out there and playing a night game?
Yeah, I think it's awesome for the sport. It's a blessing to be able to be the head coach at Michigan and coach on the stage and coach against a program like Oklahoma. Obviously playing there, there's a lot of love for it and a lot of respect. And I think, Brent will probably say the same thing. Two blue blood programs playing in a night game on ABC on College Game Day. That's what college football is all about. College football is about these moments, about these games. So to be able to do that and, to go back to play at a place that you played, it's super special. It's awesome. But yeah, we're just really, really focused on the now and today and what we can do to get better. And but it's gonna be an awesome atmosphere.
Last couple of things, and then I'll let you get on with your day because I know you're a busy man. You've talked a lot about building this sort of we over me mentality and having it be about the team. In today's era, everything in our culture is pulling us to not have us think that
Yeah.
way, and especially these guys. So how do you approach it? Like, how do you actually get all of those young men to buy into the overall selflessness that's key for what you want to do?
Yeah, I think it starts with the kids you recruit and the families you recruit in your program. Yeah, I think you have to weed out, and not to say there's bad kids or bad families, but there's families that just don't fit. There's kids that just don't fit here. So you got to figure out who are the fits for your program, who are the fits that you actually mesh well with you, your staff, and then the players that you have here. When we go through the recruiting process, it's a lot of our players telling us like, yeah, that's we like this guy, we like this guy, and the film's great, but if they're not a fit in the program, that's not good. And then it's just continual teaching of everyday life, of everything you do, doing everything the right way, whether it's lining up your water bottles, lining up your shoes, making sure the weights are put away, going to class, being a great citizen. Like all those things include the team over me mentality because at the end of the day, like this is an 11-man sport. Like you can't just be the only person out there. So whether it's off the field or on the field, you got to be all about the team. And the people that aren't, those are the ones that are failures. For us, we want to make sure that everybody on the team is bought into us. And that's a great example of Bryce. On the block is like a guy that has all this hype and all this thing. He's all team over me because he's willing to throw a block with somebody on 3rd and 3 in the red zone and not be mad that he didn't get to throw a touchdown there. So I think that's a prime example of like the culture we're trying to build here.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate you being generous with your time and all of your insights, and we're obviously wishing you the best of luck this week in Norman. Enjoy the trip.
I appreciate it. Go Blue.